Hi, I'm Berit Stover.
And I'm Beth Mund.
Welcome to Conscious Conversations on the Sacred Letter channel. Beth and I have been receiving so many interesting emails from people asking questions and sharing what's going on in their lives. And one of the ones that we received recently was asking us about intuition. So Beth and I thought we would share with you our thoughts on intuition and how we use our intuition to bring things into our awareness.
Intuition for me has been the hallmark of my spiritual journey. I have used it for big decisions, for everyday situations, and for just general guidance as to really what I'm going to do throughout my day. When I wake up in the morning, I tap into my intuition immediately. I think, what am I meant to do right now? And it could be read a book, go online, just sit with myself, meditate, grab a cup of coffee. I use it now for pretty much everything. And sometimes I'll use it, when am I to go to the store? How am I supposed to spend my energy during the day? Which way am I driving to go somewhere? It has become my soul's guidance, and I trust it. It took me some time to trust it. I think it's a process. We often hear our intuition before we start to listen to it. And for me, it's been a process to understand how to hone in on it, and to, when I have heard it, to follow that guidance. And the intuition for me is always calm and knowing, and through my heart. It's never about in my head. If it's confusing or fearful or doubtful, it's not my intuition, it's my mind. It's peaceful, and it guides me in a way that makes me feel happy and knowing, and that I'm in the flow.
I think I agree with you. I think it's that gentle whisper, that nudge. It's like when we know something, we don't know why we know it, but we feel it and we know it with all of our being. And I think it's that from that we are guided, that our inspiration comes from, that our creativity comes from, that we're connected with a source that is much greater than us, and from where I believe we come. So with that, I think it's when we listen to that in that quiet space, when we listen to that knowingness, that insight, that inspiration, we're guided into places that feel like it's guided with ease. It takes us to where it's almost like you're putting yourself into a river, and it flows so evenly when we follow the intuition. And I think that it is, it's where creativity comes, and it's where our greater thoughts reside that guide our soul. It's like the seeing of our soul. It's the insights of our soul.
You know, it's interesting that when you were talking, I was thinking about how I started meditating because of a lot of the thoughts I could not calm in my head. There were anxious thoughts and fearful thoughts. And the reason I decided to meditate, and why many people meditate, is to bring you to a space. It's nearly impossible not to have any thought. But if you can bring to a space where you can become the observer of your thoughts and quiet your thoughts for a certain period, that's how you get to your intuition. And although I didn't start out knowing that, the more I meditated, the more I was able to hear my intuition, because very often our thoughts will get in our way. They will steer us away from our intuition. We can ruminate with our thoughts. We can doubt ourselves. We can go into fearful thoughts. And then next thing we know, we're so far away from our heart and our knowing and our intuition. And what always brings me back, I started out with that practice, and what always brings me back is to quiet myself and quiet my mind and go into that intuition, or go for a walk, or whatever it would be to allow me to get back into my heart and into that space.
I think you're right. I think it's quieting ourselves and not having to fill the silence with anything. And there's no judgment, there's no doubt, there's no fear. and to rest in that and almost create a space where we know that everything can be possible. We live in a universe where there is all possibilities. Everything can be possible. And it's really that intuition allows us to tap into that beauty, that harmony, that ability to see things that we can't see right now, but we know can be possible. And it's got a bit of hope to it too, that we attach our sails to that and let the winds kind of carry us in that direction. And I think what it does too is it lifts us up to a higher vibration. So for me to go into intuition, I feel to get into that zone, I need to be in a vibration where there's peace within myself. Right now, looking out at the world, I see there's so much change. There's so much going on with this pandemic. There's so much uncertainty and sadness and that chaos out there. And so to go within and to find that grounding, that inner peace, and it's within our soul that we are creating harmony that will reflect back out on the outward world. It's doing the inside, it's doing that insightful work, and that's where the intuition, I think, comes. But to be still and not to fill things, but to also hold ourselves in love, to care for ourselves, to respect ourselves, and to rest in that quiet beauty that everything is loved, everything is worthy, everything is part of our own journey, and to just let it kind of be, and then to listen and to be guided by what kind of comes through from that.
And to have fun with it. You know, I was thinking about an example of recently about my intuition, and I get excited when I start following my intuition. I feel so good. I know that I'm following my heart, and not because I don't feel good because I'm following my heart. I feel good because my heart is moving me in the direction that's the right direction for me, my journey. I'm in the flow, whether it's my day or my life. And I had a situation where we were looking to downsize, and we went to go see a house, and we talked to the realtor, and she told us to put an offer in on the house. And it was a fix up, and we had to take into account the money that we would put into it. And we came up with a number, and they wanted us to go higher because they said, well, you weren't going to get the house. And I knew in my intuition not to go higher. It wasn't about whether or not we were going to actually get the house. It was that I didn't know exactly all the specifics, but I knew not to go higher. And I had this little voice inside of me that said, you're going to get another chance. Even if you lose it, you're going to get another chance. And we put the offer in that we were comfortable with. And the realtor said, there was a higher offer. You didn't get the house. And I said, okay. And then about a month later, she came back and said, the house is back on the market. They lowered the price, and you have another opportunity to go in. And now our bid was perfect, and they wanted our bid, and we chose in the end not to do it. But I knew that it was the right number, and I knew that they were going to come back, but I didn't know any of the details, and I didn't have to know. And then once you start, it takes faith. You have to have faith when you listen to it, because it's not easy sometimes. You know, your emotions get the best of you, or your thoughts get the best of you, especially in an emotional situation. Say you wanted a house, you know, pretty badly, and you didn't want to lose it. So that might get in the way. I've been in that situation. So you want to have faith and knowing that you're being guided, you know, by your intuition, you're being guided. And then when you start to listen to it and follow it, then when it comes through, then you have more motivation, and then you get even more excited. Like, I felt that was correct, but you have to take a chance. You have to take a shot and do it for the first time. And then it starts to become easier to do that, to have the faith.
I think you're so right. I think it's trusting. It's trusting it and acting upon it. So, for your example, you did act upon it and things unfolded. And we don't always know all the details, but we're given nudges that, yes, this is in a certain direction. It brings to mind, I remember being kind of guided to go to a store one time, and I didn't need to go really. But when I arrived, I had been thinking about this woman who I hadn't seen in like 3 years. And there she was coming out of the car that I had next to where I had parked. And it was just amazing. And I had just been thinking about her so much. I haven't seen her in 3 years and was wondering about her family. And it just kind of, when we follow and we act upon the intuition, and then it gets kind of reaffirmed, okay, now I know why. And it just kind of builds that confidence, and then things open up more and more, which is just beautiful.
Yeah. And sometimes we don't know, like you said, you don't know why. You just know that you're meant to do this. I got that intuition that we would probably get another chance, but sometimes we don't know why. And we have to do it. We could be avoiding something, you know, an accident, a traffic jam. We don't know a lot of why we're guided to do what we're guided to do, whether it's for a personal or a bigger reason. And that's where the faith comes in, that, you know, there is it could be a reason that you have no idea about why you're supposed to be in a specific place, or why you have gotten a specific, you've broken your foot, or, you know, whatever the circumstances. You don't always know. You think you know, but there's always additional reasons for that. And it's very hard to figure that all out. So when you follow your intuition and you leave that up to that faith, then you know you're being guided, and it's always for good. Tuition is always for your highest and best good. There's never anything that's scary, fearful, or wrong about your intuition. If those things come into the picture, you are not being guided by your intuition. Now, that doesn't mean you might have an intuition that you feel in your gut that says, don't go down that alley. You might feel a little fear, but that's your intuition telling you it's not safe. That's different than having fearful thoughts. But your intuition will always, they might tell you not to do something, or they might tell you to do something.
And it brings that sense of peace, because you feel like you're in alignment. You feel like you're on your path. It reminds me, Beth, of one of the sacred letters that you channeled. And there's a beautiful passage from Louise. And she says, we do not know where our path goes, but we must have faith and follow our soul, that voice, that intuition, that gentle urging that encourages us to look and go beyond what we see and know, to melt into what we feel and know it is the pathway to our soul. Just beautiful words that really speak to all of what we were discussing about honoring that inner voice, that sense. We call it a sixth sense, but it's really that first inner sense that we have of listening to our soul, listening to what our own individual paths are to be, how we are to express. And through it comes, like you said, that's so joyful and wonderful, so much creativity, so much inspiration. We're each on our own path and each on our own journey. And it's listening to that intuition that enables us to hear and to get guidance into how we are to express ourselves fully for who we are, because we're each individual beings.
Yeah, and let it surprise you. You know, talking about creativity, we all have a lot more time on our hands now since we're staying in our homes. Let it surprise you. If you have an intuition that doesn't make sense, or says, you know, go grab a piece of paper and start drawing, or, you know, whatever it is, let it surprise you. That's the beauty of it, and how you can have fun with it, and and that's where creativity is born, and that's where those ideas come from. Those ideas where someone creates them or invents something, you know, that's your intuition, and having fun with it is important. And I would say start with the So start with the small ones. You know, I used to think that intuition, and I had to make these huge decisions, and it's very hard to go from not knowing about intuition to making your life decisions based on your intuition. Start with the small everyday steps. You know, wake up and say, what is my intuition telling me I should do right now? If it means sit on the couch, then you should sit on the couch. If it means go for a walk, go for a walk. Start with small steps and following your intuition, and that's how it builds and grows. And then you can move on to the bigger questions. You know, what am I to do with my life? And is this what decision should I make? Where am I supposed to live? Whatever decisions come up. But starting with the small stuff, I think, is the easiest way to go.
Beautiful, beautiful. So thank you so much for joining us. And if you have any other questions or topics that you'd like Beth and I to address, please just email us. Our link is below. And our love to you, and may you all follow your intuition today.
Thank you.